Hi there, welcome back. I have been asked by a couple of people about the rulers that I like and the rulers that I use. My ruler of preference is Creative Grids rulers. I'm going to hold one up for you with a piece of fabric behind it that will hopefully help you to see it a little bit better. The reason I like Creative Grids rulers the best is because they're clear, number one. They've got really nice little gripper spots on them to grip to the fabric. They have a 1/2 inch built into them. So this ruler, for example, is a 6.5 inch square ruler. So depending upon the size that you are cutting and where you're cutting, you'll see the 1/2 inch increments. The other thing that I like about it is the lines on it are really fine. And because they are in black and in white, they're very, very easy to read. So one of the other questions that I recently had, I was asked if I was to go out and buy new Creative Grids rulers, what sizes would I suggest? And my suggestion is really based on the type of sewing that you do. If you sew with a lot of layer cakes and jelly rolls and charm packs and Tonga treats and those type of things, I recommend a couple of different rulers. The first one that I recommend is the 6.5 by 18.5 inch ruler. And again, it's a nice size. It's not overly big, and because you're already dealing with pre-cuts, this is the size that I recommend. And then I also recommend that you pick up at least one, if not two, square rulers. Now, again, it's going to really depend upon what it is that you're doing with your project. I would recommend that you pick up probably at least the 9.5 inch square. If not the 9.5 inch, then the 12.5 inch. So again, if you're working with pre-cuts, I would suggest that you get the 6.5 by 18.5 inch and then a square one, depending upon what the project is. And then I would do anything from the 6.5 up to the 12.5. Okay? If you're working with yards of fabric, whether it be half yard increments or whole yard increments, whatever it is that you're doing, I would suggest this bigger ruler. This one is 24.5 inches by, I gotta double check, by 8.5 inches. And yes, it is really big, but this one is great when you, let's say you've got a 1 yard piece of fabric and you need to cut it up into, 2.5 inch strips for binding. This one is great because you can lay the fabric on your cutting board, and the ruler is long enough that you can use your cutting mat to help make certain that your fabric is square. If anybody would like a tutorial on that, just please leave a comment before, and I would be very happy to show you how I go about squaring up my fabric. So if you're going to use yards of fabric, I would suggest the big one, which again is 8.5 by 24.5 inches. And then I would also suggest that you pick up a square ruler. So again, if you're working with jelly rolls, layer cakes, any type of a pre-cut, I would recommend the 18.5 by 6.5 inch ruler. So the 18.5 by 6 inch for pre-cuts, and then a square, whether it be the 12, the 9, or the 6. The 6 is probably a little bit small, but one of a solid square ruler to square things up. And if you're dealing with yards of fabric, I would suggest the biggest ruler, which is, or one of the bigger ones, which is 8.5 by 24 inches. If you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to leave them. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye.